Yes, I did. Ran up on one.
I can give it back to you if you need it for the.
I was having trouble with that. Building
Judy?
is all easier.
No, I don't.
If All right. It is now 7:03. I'll call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Beloit City Council. Tonight is Monday, June 16th, 2014, and we're at 100 State Street in the City Hall Forum. Can I get a roll call?
All councilors are present.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is special orders of the day and announcements. We have none this evening. Item 4 is public hearings, 4A.
Proposed ordinance amending the future land use map of the City of Beloit Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use designation of the property located at 308 West Grand Avenue from single-family residential, urban, to office. Plan Commission recommendation for approval 4-0.
Ms. Christensen.
The applicant and property owner of the building would like to renovate the building on the property located at 308 West Grand, which is the southwest intersection of West Grand and Bluff Street, to create long and short-term rentable office space. He lives on the property directly to the west, and he would like this property to be able to use for office space. He thought it was appropriate for office space, so he brought forward this request to do the first step, which is change the comprehensive plan from single-family residential urban to office. And then if approved, he would bring forward the actual rezoning request. And Plan Commission did recommend approval.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing on item 4A. If there's anyone wishing to speak, please approach the podium and state your name and address. Second call for anyone wishing to speak on item 4A. Third and final call, is there anyone wishing to speak on item 4A? If not, the public hearing is closed. Are there any questions on this item? If not, this is up for suspending the rules for a second reading. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Moved by Lupke, second by Kincaid. Is there any discussion on suspending the rules? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Rules are suspended by a vote of 7-0. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kincaid, second by Kelly. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0. Item 5 is citizens' participation. We have reached the point in the meeting for members of the public to speak to the council about issues that are coming before us or may come before us in the future. The council will not act on any requests this evening unless the item you are speaking about is already on our agenda, but we may act on requests at a future meeting, or we may refer a speaker to staff for assistance. We ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes or less and avoid making any personal attacks. Is there anyone wishing to speak during citizens' participation? Please approach the podium now. Second call for anyone wishing to speak during citizens' participation. Third and final call, if you wish to speak during citizens' participation, please approach the podium. If there are no speakers, we'll move on to item 6, the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda. Is there any councilor wishing to remove an item from the consent agenda? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request that item L be removed, please.
All right. Are there any other councilors wishing to remove any other items from the consent agenda? If not, the consent agenda will consist of items 6A through K. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved by Lupke, second by Haynes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The consent agenda is approved 7-0. 6L.
Resolution releasing city's right of first refusal and waiving lease restrictions on 2555 Kennedy Drive in the Beloit Industrial Park.
Attorney Casper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was contacted a week ago today by an attorney involved on behalf of the seller for this property at 2555 Kennedy. The seller's attorney informed me that the buyer had discovered a 1983 restrictive covenant that the city had recorded. Further research indicated that affected what was then known as Phase 2 of the Beloit Industrial Park, where this property sits. In any case, the restrictive covenant had two clauses of concern. The first one stated that when any owner, by the way, in '83 the city owned all this property. It was subsequently transferred out, but the first clause said when any owner desired to sell the land, it should first give notice to the city, and the city would have the opportunity to purchase the property in the same terms and conditions being offered by a potential buyer. The second clause is a bit difficult to explain the reasoning behind it, but it says that there can be no leasing of the property, leasing or rental of the properties, this particular sale was for the purpose, the new owner was going to put a rental tenant in there. So they wanted to know if the city would be willing to waive those. After a review with staff and manager, it was determined that the city had, number one, no interest in buying the property and no interest in restricting the rental or lease. I would note the original covenants also had a buyback agreement should the property not have been developed after sale. That's long since expired and by the boards, but we retain this right of first refusal even after development. So in any case, we had no interest in exercising that. We're recommending that council waive these provisions by giving the city manager permission to execute any document that the buyer may request. I believe the resolution itself will satisfy the buyer. The buyer's attorney has reviewed the resolution and is satisfied that it meets their requirements. Be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Mr. Casper, do you see any foreseeable reason where it would be helpful for us to have first crack at buying down the road? I just want to make sure, because we're giving away our rights here in this case.
Well, this only gives away the right as to 2555 Kennedy. This same, both restrictions, and I have a feeling the lease rental one is probably being violated in certain instances out there at the present time, but the right of first refusal exists on Phase 2 of the industrial park, and from what Mr. Yankee and I could find, a similar restriction or right of first refusal exists in the first and third phase properties also.
So I guess I'm understanding waiving the lease restrictions. That makes sense to me. But to waive our right of first refusal, why, and maybe you can help me understand this. Obviously, we're not interested in the property at this time, that we have been given that right at first crack, and we've decided we've declined. But we want to completely eliminate our right from this property forever going forward?
Well, I think the original concept behind the covenant was if we sold it to a person to develop and they failed to develop, we would have the right to repurchase, irregardless of whether they put it on the market. We were granted that right to repurchase it for what they paid us. I don't remember the exact terms. I think that right existed for a year or 2 years after the development period ended. And it would seem to me that would have protected the main city interest, which was the sale of the property for development. Possibly Mr. Yankee would like to further elaborate.
Yes, since I stepped down here, Mr. Casper, I think you did a fantastic job in answering that question. But yes, that was the purpose of the clause, is a protection for us is if we actually sold a piece of undeveloped ground, and if the buyer did not actually develop the property, we had the right to repurchase it. In this case, of course, the property was developed some 30-some years ago. If we were to even to exercise this option right now, we not only have to reimburse them for the cost of the land, but the value of the building.
Oh, I see.
So we have no intention or desire to do that.
That was a piece I didn't know. It was important. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yankee.
Are there any further questions on this item?
Motion for approval.
Been moved by Lupke, second by DeForest. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0. Item 7 is ordinances. 7A.
Proposed ordinance to amend the table of contents, sections 27.01 sub 1, 27.02, 27.03 sub 2, 27.03 sub 4, 27.04, 27.11, 27.15, 27.16, 27.18 sub 2, 27.18 sub 5, 27.19 sub 2, 2719 sub 4, and 27.20 to create section 27.15 sub 3 sub C, and repeal section 27.20 of chapter 27 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit as it relates to private wells.
Mr. Mathis.
Boy, even on the second reading, it still is a mouthful, isn't it? Wow. For the benefit of our new council member, let me just do a little history. Good evening. I'll have to put my glasses on, though. Hold on, sorry. The City of Beloit Water Utility is required to develop and implement a comprehensive private well permitting and abandonment program as stated in a 2012 audit by the DNR. The program is designed to protect the utility's drinking water from our drinking water source from contaminants that may be introduced through inadequately designed and maintained private wells. So that's the crux of this program. What we hope to gain is to prevent, again, unused, unsafe, and non-compliant wells from contaminating the aquifer used for our public drinking water supply, protect the water quality of the City of Beloit's drinking water, provide a methodology to permit and monitor private wells, which is really, again, getting back to everything, is what's in front of you tonight. We amended the ordinance to provide tools for us to implement the program, monitor the program, and permit. And at the last council meeting, the ordinance was amended to authorize a permit fee which would be set from time to time from City Council. The city attorney drafted a resolution which will appear later on the agenda. The resolution provides for a waiver of the fee for all initial applications properly filed with the city on or before December 31st, 2014, as requested by council. So we did take care of that. So that being said, I'll take any further questions, and then hopefully we can move forward with this tonight and get it on the books and start and move forward with permitting. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Haynes, second by Lupke. Are there any questions or is there any discussion? Councilor DeForest? No?
No, my other question can wait for. My question, I'm sorry.
You're on. You're on.
I had sent a question about high-capacity wells, but
Yes.
it's not germane to this, so that can wait for another time. You and I can have a discussion about that
Okay.
later. Thank
Okay,
you.
no problem, sure.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 8 is appointments. We have appointments tonight. I, the undersigned, Mark Spreitzer, duly elected President of the Beloit City Council, subject to confirmation by the Beloit City Council, do hereby appoint the following citizen members to the vacancies and terms indicated below, said appointments being pursuant to nominations made and approved by the Appointment Review Committee at the regular meeting held June 9th, 2014. To the Alcohol Beverage License Control Committee, incumbent Betty Barnett for a term ending June 30th, 2017, and incumbent Tina Goix as the School District of Beloit representative for the 2014-15 school year. To the Equal Opportunities Commission, incumbent Joe Hansen for a term ending June 30th, 2017, and incumbent Mike Zorel for a term ending June 30th, 2017. To the Municipal Library Board, incumbent John Watrous for a term ending June 30th, 2017, and incumbent Sandra Kincaid for a term ending June 30th, 2017. Is there a motion to approve these appointments?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Haynes, second by Kelly. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? These are approved 7-0. I'd like to announce the following vacancies and encourage any interested resident of the City of Beloit to apply. We have one vacancy for a resident on the Alcohol Beverage License Control Committee, one vacancy for resident on the Appointment Review Committee, two alternate vacancies on the Board of Appeals, 1 vacancy for a former city councilor, and 2 vacancies for residents on the Board of Ethics. The Board of Review has 2 vacancies for alternates for residents. Community Development Authority has 2 vacancies for residents. The Equal Opportunities Commission has 1 vacancy for a resident. Municipal Golf Committee, 1 vacancy for resident. The Plan Commission, 2 vacancies for residents. And Traffic Review Committee has 3 vacancies for residents. Please contact city staff if you're interested in applying for one of these committees. They're a great way to get more involved in the city and have a voice in what's going on. So I would encourage anybody who's not already serving on a committee to consider applying for one of these vacancies. I would also like to note that since we have a new council member tonight, Regina Hendricks, that at our next meeting we will officially make Regina's committee appointments for the rest of her term, and those will be done at the next meeting. Item 9 is councilor activities and upcoming events. Councilor Lupke.
Last Tuesday, I had the privilege of going with you, Councilman Spreitzer and Councilman Kincaid, to the old Turtle Township Hall that was annexed to the city of Beloit a while back, so CCI could build their corporate headquarters. And the highlight was seeing that building as it existed, and as many of us went to pancake feeds there and other things, as it stood there, and we conjured up a lot of memories. And then Diane Hendricks got in a 35-ton cat and went over and was going to knock it down once, but she stayed there for about half an hour and knocked the entire thing down. I think she had a ball, but that was very entertaining. We all stood back, but she was very safe. But that was neat, seeing out with the old and in with the new. But Diane got an A+ for her valiant effort. That was my highlight. That's about all.
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I have a long list of things. So, first of all, I want to congratulate the newest addition to our city council, Councilwoman Regina Hendricks. We're so pleased to have you join us and know that you will certainly represent the city well. I would like to extend my gratitude to Florence Haley, who had her last day of work last Friday, and I wasn't able to stop in. So I apologize for that, but I wanted to publicly just express my gratitude to her for all of her fine work over many, many years as our Human Resources Director. And I would like to also congratulate Tony Farrell and the Finnegan brothers for their upcoming induction in the Rock County Hall of Honor. What fitting honors and awards for those 3 individuals. So thank you so much for how you continue to serve our community. Had a very busy 2 weeks. Really enjoyed attending the Save Our Youth breakfast, the Porter Avenue Watch Group picnic in the Merrill neighborhood. I went to dinner theater at the Castle, and they do have another one planned for July. So I would encourage you to check out the Castle's website and see how you can get some reserved tickets for the dinner theater there. Also attended the Rock County Prevention Strategic Planning. It was a half-day strategic planning group with stakeholders in the county who want to make sure that there's good prevention programming and services for youth and adults. And finally, I would just like to extend, again, my gratitude to all of my colleagues who continue to do such fine work and represent the city well. So thank you.
Councilor Kincaid.
Thank you. Can you see this? I was at the farmer's market last Saturday, and somebody gave me a pen from the Visit Beloit, and inside it are all the events that they're going to have this summer. I want you to know of 2 that will be in June. Number 1, on the 20th of June, Little Vito and the Torpedoes, my favorite. Try to make it. They're great. Secondly, on June 27, Doug Deming and the Jewel Tones. I suspect that's a little more sedated than Vito, but I'm sure we'll enjoy it anyway. I, too, attended that wonderful demolition, and I've been to a lot of groundbreakings, but this one beat all, I can tell you. Thank you. That's all I have.
Counselor Hendricks.
I just want to say thank you. I'm excited. I'm getting my feet wet here. I'm kind of laying back today observing, but I'm learning a lot already, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the term here. So thank you.
Counselor Kelly.
Well, I went to the groundbreaking as well, and the graduation, attended the high school graduation on, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And it was a beautiful day, and everything turned out perfect. I think I see a few people over there. And then this past weekend, there was plein air. So the plein air event went, it looks like without a hitch, and it was well attended, and the art was beautiful, and we're so glad to have it here. And that's all.
Vice President Haynes.
Well, it looks like everyone's hit all the high points, so I'll just leave it simple and say, welcome, Regina.
Thank you.
And I also attended the groundbreaking, and it certainly was a fabulous event. I needed to break away and get to work, but just had to keep watching that building get smashed by Diane. It was great. And I also had a chance to go to the picnic at the community garden in the Merrill neighborhood and talk to some of the folks from the Porter Area Watch Group. And then just wanted to mention that Beloit College had a very successful reunion weekend, bringing a lot of visitors into town this weekend. And because of that, I wasn't able to make it to some of the other events in the community, but I was both working and attending because it was my own 5-year reunion. Item 10 is City Manager's presentation. We have none. 11 is reports from boards and city officers. 11A.
Resolution adjusting award amount and authorizing final payment of Public Works Contract C-1307, street resurfacing.
Mr. Boysen.
This project primarily provided new asphalt resurfacing on 42 city blocks throughout the city. The requirement of the contract had been completed to the satisfaction of the city. The awarded contract amount was $679,408.38. Quantities that were increased over the due to change orders amounted to $164,327.63. And earlier today, we emailed, and shortly before the meeting, also the city clerk also provided a hard copy of the variance report, which provides the detail of the 24 unit cost pay items that account for that total. So the significant, perhaps minutiae detail of those items are included in that. It's and then so the net payment for the contract then comes to $843,736.01. The city engineer, city attorney, and director of accounting recommend that the final payment be made through the Rock Road Companies, Inc. in the amount of the final payment of $62,888.90. The award resolution authorized expenditures of $781,000, and the actual expenditures with the change orders, as I just mentioned, totaled $843,736.01. The additional work that's detailed in the report basically fell under 3 categories. These 3 categories were that Reynolds Drive was added to the contract for a total of $32,346. And also paving at Big Hill Park was added in the amount of $68,970.44. And unexpected higher quantities due to more streets being in poor condition had a total allocation of $63,010.86. Reynolds Drive was added to support the redevelopment of the Alcoa building, and the entire Big Hill loop was rehabilitated instead of a partial loop, with Parks providing the additional funding that is reimbursing the street program in 2014. This, of course, eliminated having 2 years of construction in Big Hill Park. There's always a bit of an unavoidable difficulty with a construction project. So here in 2014, we're enjoying a construction-free, completed project by doing that. So it's recommended that the resolution attached adjusting the award amount and authorizing the final payment be approved. Funds are available in the 2013 CIP. And if there's any question, we'd be happy to answer them.
Counselor DeForest.
Thank you. Mr. President, I would like to request that this item be laid over due to the high amount that we went over budget. I'd like to receive some more supporting documentation, just explaining. I certainly thank you and I appreciate the rationale that you've shared in the staff summary, but I would like to see some more detailed documentation because it is quite a bit over the original budget and we weren't aware that it was going over to that degree. So I would like to lay this item over, please. That's my motion.
Is there a second to that motion? Second by Kincaid. Is there discussion on laying this over? I would just ask Councilor DeForest, can you be more specific in what sort of documentation you would like to see?
Sure.
Sorry.
It's okay. I would like to see any correspondence related to the changes or the rationale for why the additional expenses were incurred. I heard you allude to how there were some road-based issues that we came across that we weren't aware of that existed. The decision to do more paving in Big Hill Park than we originally planned. Just to share how that decision was made and where those expenses came from, those additional expenses. I'm trying to think if you said there was a third item that.
Reynolds Drive was added to the project list.
I'd like to know the rationale for adding that, who made that decision, and what additional cost that was a part of the excess over budget.
Now, like as I mentioned earlier, and in the report, the Reynolds Drive was $32,346.33. And the base repairs really are something that happens in every project. Unfortunately, it's virtually impossible to predetermine the condition of the base when you strip the surface off. Our engineering staff uses their experience over many years to approximate what that is. The contingency is intended to cover it. But in this case, unfortunately, there was more deterioration that needed to be addressed. You wouldn't want to resurface the street and not address it, and you essentially discover that during the process of the project. So it really is an ongoing construction activity, and you just need to make those adjustments as you go, of course.
And I'm certainly in agreement, and that's why we have change orders. So I get that, but this is quite an excessive amount over what we budgeted, and we didn't receive any notice that we were going over that much amount. I hate to see this on the back end when we, a payment request is brought to us and it's way over what we budgeted without having more substantive, detailed documentation of why it's way over. I mean, I appreciate what you're sharing here and now, but I'd like to see a little more supporting documentation for that, if I may.
Okay, it is unusual that it goes over that amount, and so
Exactly,
I'd
that's why I'm
apologize for
asking.
that,
And please don't, I hope you're not offended. I'm not, accusing you of any wrongdoing. I just, if this is taxpayer money, I want to make sure I understand, where this is coming from exactly before I vote for the final payment. So I'm certainly not accusing the city of any wrongdoing or not judicious good use of the money, but I think we need a little more detail for this kind of going over, even with change order that we had, so.
City Manager.
Mr. President, I just wanted to clarify that we did not go over budget with this project. There was plenty of appropriation in our capital projects budget to cover the amount of paving that we did, including the extra because we had some poor base condition. We had some curb and gutter that collapsed when we were removing the old pavement. And as the Public Works Director indicated, that's not a discretionary item. We had to make those repairs. There was also money in the parks budget to cover the Big Hill Park paving project. The original plan was to split it and do it in 2 years. That would have disrupted the park in 2 successive seasons during the summer. It was more efficient to do it all at one time, and we took the money out of the 2 budgets, so the street budget was reimbursed. So we didn't use any street money in the park. They have their own appropriation for that. So I just wanted to clarify this had nothing to do with budgeting. There was plenty of appropriation. What happened here is because we added the rest of Big Hill Park and we added Reynolds Drive and we had more base condition, we ended up exceeding the contract amount that was appropriated by City Council. I'm going to have to take responsibility for that. I don't remember exactly when this was talked about. We certainly had no intention of exceeding that. There should have been a resolution brought back as soon as we saw the scope of work was going to go over the contract amount. We did not do that, and when we picked it up, when we were finishing the project, adding everything up, we saw that it went over. It's about, I think, 60,000 over. It wasn't gigantic amount of money, but it was over the authorized contract amount. So I will have to extend my apologies to the council for doing that. First time it's ever happened. We didn't realize that we had so many things going on at once. Usually there's enough money in the contingency to cover some modest modifications to the scope of service during construction that occur. In this case, it ended up being more than we had anticipated.
Is there any further discussion on laying this over? If not, all in favor of laying over, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. Can we get a, can we check that count?
On a roll call vote. DeForest.
Aye.
Hendricks. Haynes. Nay. Mr. Spreitzer.
Nay.
We have 4 no votes, 3 yes votes.
Thank you.
The noes get it.
That motion does not carry. Counselor DeForest.
Could I request that I at least receive that documentation, even though we'll be voting on this matter tonight? Could I receive that?
Really, this is really it, the emailed, there were actually an email earlier today that has a great deal of detail having to do with all of the contract
An email
closeout
sent to
materials.
us today after I asked last night? Or,
Yeah, it was
Okay.
about 7:30 this morning, it was sent out.
okay.
I sent it to council, I think a little before 8 o'clock. I forwarded it on to the city council.
All right, I will check my email for that. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on item 11A? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
This is approved by a vote of 6 to 1. Counselor Kincaid? No. Item 11B.
Resolution for fees for private wells.
Mr. Mathis?
Yes. As was requested at last meeting, we developed a resolution authorizing council from time to time to review the permit fee, establish permit fees, and then especially to include a waiver for the first time around for up to and including December 31st, 2014 for the first permit fee. So that's what you see before you tonight is that resolution. I believe we included everything council's wishes. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them at this time.
Are there any questions on item 11B? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Moved by Haynes, second by DeForest. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That's approved, 7 to 0.
Thank you.
Item 11C.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, WEDC, idle industrial sites development agreement with Hendricks Commercial Properties.
Mr. Yonke.
Thank you, Mr. President. My presentation will address the next 2 items on your agenda. This past fall, we were notified by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation that they were going to be accepting applications for their newly announced idle industrial sites grant program. And WDC was trying to find sites, locations throughout the state that had older industrial sites that had fallen into disrepair and were looking for reinvestment. At about that time, we came to council. Council authorized a resolution to allow us to do an application. We partnered with Hendricks Commercial Properties to actually apply to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. And this past December, we were notified that we had in fact received a grant in the amount of $1 million. Since that time, we've been continuing to work with Hendricks Commercial Properties to work out the bugs and the details. One of the requirements for the grant was that we had to enter into a development agreement with Hendricks Commercial Properties, which we have. What you have before you tonight is the actual resolution approving that development agreement, and the second resolution is the capital improvement program budget amendment. And again, to emphasize, this is a pass-through grant. We're going to receive $1 million. We're going to pass it through to Hendricks Commercial Properties. Some of the details are, our funds are actually going to be used by Hendricks Commercial Properties to fund what we're calling the Center Spine Road. If you were out and about downtown this weekend, you probably would have saw that they're actually starting to remove that section of the old Ironworks campus that's going to be used for that Center Spine Road. Again, it's a $1 million grant. There were some requirements for match requirements. Hendricks Commercial Properties is investing over $38 million into this project, which is significant, and it's considerably more than that they're required to for their 30% match. So staff is recommending approval of both of these resolutions. I'd be happy to address any questions. Also with us tonight is Mr. Mark Membrino from Hendricks Commercial Properties, who would be available to address any questions on the project itself that you might have.
Are there any questions? Councilor DeForest.
Yes, Mr. Yankee, I had sent you a question asking about recital number 13 in the development agreement. Since there's no consequence or penalty for compliance of job creation or retention, I guess I'm confused about why that's included in the development agreement.
Very good question. The Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation established this grant program not as a job creation program. So there are no requirements whatsoever for job creation. However, we obviously have a long history in working with Hendricks Commercial Properties, particularly with this particular site. It has a long history of job creation. And in fact, we know moving forward that with this additional phase of this project, there will be additional jobs created. So even though it's not a requirement, even though there are no compliance requirements required through the development agreement, we thought it would be important to acknowledge to the council and to the community the fact that there would be jobs created.
Great, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve resolution.
Second.
Moved by Lupke, second by Haynes. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0. 11D. Believe we've heard the staff report on 11D relating to, this is just the amendment of the budget. Go ahead.
D.
Sure.
Resolution amending the 2014 capital budget for the WEDC Idle Industrial Site Grant Project.
Are there any questions on 11D? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Haynes, second by Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0. 11E.
Resolution approving the Compliance Maintenance Annual Report 2013.
Mr. Mathis.
Yes, thank you. The Compliance Maintenance Annual Report is a document provided by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to evaluate wastewater treatment, our wastewater treatment facility, and collection systems for problems and deficiencies. Management, operation, and maintenance activities are described. We identify proposed actions to prevent violations of our permit and any water degradation. The real purpose is to promote the owner. When they speak of the owner, that means the city of Beloit's residents. They are the true owner of the wastewater treatment plant. And each year I bring this forward to the council with our score. It's basically our report card for the past year for the wastewater treatment facility. Again, this year we scored a 4.0, which is a perfect score. And again, that's, as I say every year, it's a testament to the staff at the wastewater treatment plant. Without their dedication and hard work, there's no way we would attain this type of score. So I'm proud of them, as we all should be. And as I said before, we took this challenge on over 20 years ago to run this wastewater treatment plant for the citizens of the city of Beloit, and I think they've kept their promise. And I'm extremely proud of all the work they do out there. So with that, I'll take any questions regarding the report.
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. And I am thrilled with the straight A report. That's wonderful, the awards. I did have some questions, mostly just to educate myself, because it's such an important area of service to the city and impact for our residents and the environment.
Absolutely.
So I didn't know, and this is my own ignorance after all these years being sitting here, I didn't know our biosolids were being landfilled at all. I know we were spreading, but I didn't know we were landfilling. Could you talk more about how much and what kind of cost that is to us?
Sure. Yeah, we, back in 2012, we completed a project at the wastewater treatment plant. And that included the installation of a belt filter press, which basically takes
That are dewatering?
dewatering,
Okay.
correct, yes. It takes our biosolids and dewaters it further. Typically, when we land apply biosolids, we were at about 3%, which is about the consistency of chocolate milk. We, the equipment that we installed dewaters it further so it's more of a pasty type substance. And with that, we have a little more flexibility in our operation. The goal was, when we set up this program and move forward with it, was to split our application rates about 60% liquid, 40% cake, which would go to the landfill. We found that we're doing, we thought we'd take about 102 loads to the landfill initially. The first year, we took 42. At a cost of $39,000. We anticipated a cost of about $72,000 initially. So by staff improving the operation, looking at other opportunities, we were able to reduce the amount of trips we make to the landfill. Is it the best beneficial reuse of biosolids? No.
Right.
It's not the worst, but it's also not, it does provide them a benefit. It provides, it increases their gas production so they can create more energy. I had a meeting this morning. We're looking for alternative methods to recycle the biosolids, acquire more land or find more land to land apply all of our cake, virtually eliminating the landfill from the equation. We could get in a long, deeper discussion regarding rules and regulations for biosolids in the future, but again, this is positioning us to meet those regulations. I think it's a good first step.
Okay,
It's a good first step.
great, thank you. I have more questions. I did see that we sewer line televised a little over 8% of our system last year. Do you feel like we're keeping pace well enough? Or
Well, considering the past 5 years, our average was around 4.2%, I believe we've effectively almost doubled that. So yes.
You're comfortable with, okay.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Great.
That equates to about 60,000 feet per year.
Okay.
With a staff of roughly 2 people split between stormwater and collection system, I think they do an outstanding job. And again, there is no benchmark per se for that type of work, but
Okay.
we, in effect, doubled the amount we have over the past few years. That's a testament to Brett Aber and what he's done with the staff, and the staff themselves. They've taken it upon themselves to increase their efficiency, their production. They're looking at the way they work and finding better ways to do business. So that's a hats off to the collection crew.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's wonderful. I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure you didn't feel like we need to increase our capacity. You're comfortable with, okay.
Oh, yes, certainly.
If I could ask about the 12 basement backup occurrences that were reported, were those specific to city main failures and corresponding line failures for the city, on behalf of the city, or are those just basement backups, period, regardless of whether they were property specific or city?
Right, there were no failures of our infrastructure. You're looking at
Okay.
grease, roots, and disposable wipes.
Those disposable wipes. I
yes,
talked about
disposable
that at
wipes.
the last city council meeting.
Correct. I'd be more than happy to share the details with you. We do have photos, and it's rather shocking what one disposable wipe will turn into. So, you know, it's comedic at times, but it's very serious because it does affect, obviously, the citizens, innocent citizens, most of the time. So, yeah, but that's what the 12 backups were. We do have a root program. Again, it's impossible to attack every root in the city, but again, you do a systematic approach, eliminate roots, use chemicals, define hotspots or problem areas, and work as best you can to eliminate the problems as we find them. Because as with anything, once you eliminate a spot, a new one may open up. So again, it's a constant battle. It's firefighting in a sense, to use an analogy, but that's what we do. In many ways, we fight fires also. A little
Right.
different kind, though.
In that same table, there was listed, it was a very genetic category, just a number of complaints.
Yes.
What are those complaints?
Complaints are calls that we receive from citizens of a sewer backup.
Okay.
So we had 67, so 12 were actual basement backups, so 55 were citizens laterals, where we get the call, "Hey, I have a slow-moving drain, there's a backup," we go, we investigate, it turns out they may have a root in their own private lateral, or they may have a disposable wipe in their private lateral. So 55 of them were citizen, private property issues, not the city.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Could you talk a little bit about the high flows at the Turtle Creek Pump Station?
Yes.
I saw the notation in the report about the ice jam, but that could certainly happen again. What are we going to do about that?
I did put forth as we have in the past, again, we're always identifying hotspots. The Collie Road interceptor, along with the Industrial Park interceptor, has moved up on the list. I think we need to address that in the near future.
Okay.
What happened, there's a particular section by the railroad trestle where there's a large gap in the pipe. We're addressing that this year for 2015, and it just lets a lot of water flow in. Once the ice, obviously Turtle Creek backs up, it floods that plane, and it all goes into the sewer. It'll find its way in there, so we need to seal up our sewers to prevent that from happening. The station can handle it, the plant can handle it, but you just don't want that. It's wasted energy. It's pumping, it's a waste of energy. So the more money we can invest in our infrastructure, we can prevent those types of events from happening. Obviously, we can't stop the ice jams, but we can prevent the water from infiltrating
Right.
into our sewers, yes.
So are you talking about we might looking at a future CIP item then to address that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good to know.
Yep.
And I think that's it. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the questions. Anything else?
Are there any further questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approval?
Second.
Moved by Haynes, second by Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That's approved, 7-0.
Thank
Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Hendrick, second by DeForest. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned at 7:49.
Do you need me to run up and get a photocopy of that, do you think?
Oh.
If you'd like.
All right.
Otherwise, I'll be happy to